Chapter 2137, The Eye of Heaven. For several days in a row, almost all of the high-ranking officers of the 3 legions of the Eastern Military Region were killed in action. Except for the commander of the 7th Legion and the Epsilon commander of the 32nd Legion, whose whereabouts were unknown, and the commander of the 9th Legion, who did not live in the barracks and was safe, everyone else died without a trace. This was the first time Lovok had encountered such a phenomenon, and he felt as if he were facing a formidable enemy. Several Arkham hounds were sniffing around the corpses in barracks. They were 5 or 6 times the size of human hunting dogs, covered in fine scales, and had over a dozen eyes on their heads, each covered by a thin, membrane-like substance. This allowed them to move through the mud and made them mutated underground creatures. They were usually used to help the police department solve cases and had a keen sense of smell. However, this time, they seemed very agitated, as if they had encountered something extremely terrifying, or something that was causing them to panic. Lovok looked at the Arkham hounds, which were in a state of confusion, and frowned. These hounds are carefully bred and have extremely strong tracking abilities. But they are acting very strangely. The killer is not simple. In fact, the hounds could smell the killer. However, Jiyu's scent had changed too much, and she had killed many other lizard people while posing as the dead. As a result, even these hounds were confused. The murderer is the deceased? How are we going to investigate this? Bang clenched his fists. There are no surveillance cameras in the officers' rooms, so we don't know how they died. In any case, I can confirm that this is a vicious criminal. It seems that we will have to use extreme measures to deal with him. Lovok nodded. I agree with you. We must activate the Eye of Heaven plan. The Wulwan Empire had experienced foreign invasions before. Therefore, they had a special law that when invaded, all citizens' personal privacy rights would be temporarily revoked. Not only civilians, but even the homes of military officers, officials, and nobles had to be equipped with surveillance systems. It is said that during the most severe invasion, even the royal family had to be under constant surveillance. Even the king of that generation had to be watched by more than a dozen people every day when he bathed and went to the toilet. Lovok and Bang didn't hesitate for a moment. The situation had become very serious. If they didn't deal with it in time, it could threaten the stability of the entire army and even cause panic throughout the Wulwan Empire. Then, the entire territory under the jurisdiction of the Eastern Military District must be placed under the surveillance of the Eye of Heaven. That way, no matter who the enemy was or what they did, they would be able to confirm their location, appearance, and abilities in an instant. And now there is another possibility. The murderer may still be in the 9th Army headquarters. Perhaps he is nearby. Lovok glanced around. But Bang said, everyone in the entire military headquarters has been checked. Are you saying that it was done by a traitor? But even if it was a traitor, how could they kill them without being caught by the surveillance cameras in all the corridors, without damaging the doors, and without attracting the attention of the officers? Lovok said indifferently, there are many possibilities. Complete invisibility, walking through walls, burrowing underground, or even turning into smoke. However, we must be extremely cautious in dealing with this incident. We may even have to ask the military headquarters for help. Because that person, or that group of people, must be extremely powerful. If my guess is correct, the commanders of the 7th and 32nd Legions are either dead or have defected. At this point, Lovok paused. I hope they defected. Because if they were killed, the problem would be even more complicated. Bang's expression also became serious. To be able to silently kill 2 white chariot-level mutants in the Eastern Military Region, their strength must be at the level of a silver armor general. This meant that the 2 commanders had not put up any resistance before they died. Otherwise, even the slightest burst of energy would have attracted the attention of the Wulwan Empire's defense system. Bang waved his hand and immediately gave the order, everyone assemble at the training ground. Count the number of people and record their names. From now on, no one is allowed to leave the camp without my order. After giving the order, he said to Lovok, now, I need you and your men to conduct a strict investigation of every soldier. It's better to kill the wrong person than to let the right person go. Check them one by one? Lovok didn't agree with this approach. There were more than 30,000 people in the entire army, and this would be too slow. Bang stared at him and said with a serious look, "We can't let him get away. If we let him escape today, more people will die tomorrow. At the very least, I have to make sure that no one else dies in my camp." The impact of the more than 100 corpses was too great. The entire Ninth Army was in a state of panic, and every soldier's face was filled with fear. He did this to stabilize the morale of the army. As for whether it would work, he could only try and see. Lovok had no choice but to let the investigation department's men conduct a thorough investigation. However, they were a few hours too late. After Jeang Yi finished eating all his prey, he lost interest in this place and moved on to other targets. Jeang Yi caused panic in the Wulwan Empire for quite some time, plunging the empire into a period of internal strife and external threats. This actually bought Jeang Yi and the others more time, leaving the Wulwan Empire without the energy to think about how to deal with the Huashu Kingdom. And Jeang Yi? He didn't waste a single moment, working hard to improve himself and the strength of the entire coalition. Ling's human body was awakened. Although she did not have a spirit, she was equivalent to an enhanced human with an indestructible body, which Jeang Yi could use as a shield or weapon when necessary. However, her source contained a lot of important knowledge about the Yihen tribe. This was also a treasure. Jeang Yi locked himself in the training ground. He sat on the ground, facing Ling, who was also sitting with an expressionless face. "Ling, you're so powerful, you must have a way to help me become stronger, right? Teach me how to increase my strength as quickly as possible. At least." He rubbed his stomach, as if there was something inside. "Help me absorb the spiritual energy in my body faster." During this period of time, he was like a glutton, absorbing a large amount of the origin power of powerful beings. Chapter 2138, Ling's Teaching. Whether it was Ichigard or Pokong, the origin of both of them was about to kill him, and he was actually suffering from indigestion, so his improvement wasn't as fast as he had imagined. Ling's eyes were empty as she stared at Jeang Yi like a machine. "Okay, I have received your wish to quickly improve your strength." A large amount of data flashed through her eyes, probably searching her database. After a long time, she looked at Jeang Yi and said, "First of all, I don't understand the concept of becoming stronger." "Huh?" Jeang Yi's face was full of question marks. "Don't mess around. You're the ultimate weapon of a mighty god-level civilization, so don't be so abstract, okay?" Ling said, "From the day I was created, I was the strongest fighting machine in the entire universe. So there was no growth process." Jeang Yi's eyes twitched. "Look at me, look at me. Analyze the specific situation and put yourself in my shoes. What advice can you give me?" Ling thought for a moment before saying, "According to you, the essence of power is the ability to change the world. Specifically, what you want is the ability to destroy the existing matter in this world." Jeang Yi thought about it and realized that this seemed to make sense. Isn't combat power the power to destroy? Ling held up two fingers. The source of this concept is strong desire. The stronger the desire, the easier it is to unleash powerful force and activate the latent potential of the spiritual essence within the body. However, this is limited by one's own upper limit. Everyone has their own limit, just like a water jug. How much water it can hold depends on its capacity. Therefore, absorbing more spiritual essence does not necessarily lead to increased strength. Jeang Yi hugged his arms and summarized, "In other words, capacity determines the upper limit, and desire is a necessary factor in stimulating potential." "Is that right?" Ling said, "There is another way to stimulate potential, which is even more effective than strong desire. That is no desire. No desire?" Jeang Yi suddenly thought of a person, the sage Wang Yangming. The so-called no desire is probably the state of understanding the way of heaven. Unfortunately, Jeang Yi was not that kind of person. But thinking about it the other way around, wasn't Yang Xinxin like that? She had always been indifferent about improving her strength, but her strength improved faster than anyone else's. Ling also said, no desire is not suitable for you. Strong desire is more suitable for you. All the intense desires in your heart will make you stronger. Arrogance, jealousy, anger, laziness, greed, gluttony, and lust. These 7 primal desires have the power to unleash one's potential. At this point, her eyes flickered strangely, and her voice became low. The 6th generation of humans is a very rare race that has taken these 7 strong desires to the extreme. It is a species that has gathered all kinds of destructive factors in one. Even we don't understand why the Creator created you in the first place. Among all races, you have the weakest bodies and not much intelligence, but instead have a lot of shortcomings. Ling said frankly, I even think you are more of a failure than the first generation of humans. They were just mindless beasts, but they were able to coexist in harmony. On the other hand, based on your historical development, perhaps you won't even need the Creator to intervene before you destroy yourselves. Jeang Yi hugged his arms, frowned, and looked unconvinced. What does the extinction of the 6th generation of humans have to do with me? As long as my family and I can live well, that's all that matters. I'm not well educated, so don't talk to me about all that nonsense. You're just a humanoid computer angel, why are you trying to teach me philosophy? All I care about right now is whether you can help me become stronger. At least give me some advice. With the great battle looming, Jeang Yi felt that every bit of strength he gained was a guarantee of his own safety. Ling looked at Jeang Yi and said slowly, your talent has reached its limit in the human realm, but what you lack is self-awareness and awareness of the world. The stronger your cognitive abilities, the better you will be able to master the power of the spirit and unleash even greater power. As she spoke, she suddenly pointed her finger at Jeang Yi's forehead, and Jeang Yi felt a chill spread across his forehead. Have you really pushed your abilities to the limit? The cold touch seemed to open a door, allowing Jeang Yi to vaguely grasp something. Can you explain in more detail? I don't like riddles. Jeang Yi sincerely asked for guidance. Ling sighed helplessly. There was no other way. After all, spiritual power was not the same as IQ. IQ came from the organism itself. Even if one had undergone the highest level of training of the Yihen tribe and pushed their limits to the maximum, it still depended on the individual to make good use of their talents. If it were Yang Xinxin, she would probably have understood by now. After all, she was a demon with an IQ that rivaled Einstein's. How did the saying go? Einstein's IQ was 160, the average person's IQ was around 100, and a dog's IQ was 40. So when Yang Xinxin looked at ordinary people, sometimes it was really like. Never mind, let's not talk about it. Desire is the key to unlocking your potential. The essence of ability is the influence of thoughts on the physical world, and how you use that power is a reflection of your understanding of the world. So, you can let your imagination run wild. How about it, change the material world? Stand in the universe and look down on this planet, and see everything from the perspective of the Creator. Ling slowed down her speech, almost feeding Jeang Yi one bite at a time. Slowly, Jeang Yi began to understand what Ling meant. The essence of supernatural powers is the manifestation of personal desires to change the world. So when you reach the extreme, you become like Ling and the Drucker Titan, omnipotent, directly influencing everything in the physical world. You can even create worlds in life. That's too far away for me. I can't reach that level yet. I can't escape my abilities, time, and space. But Jeang Yi closed his eyes and imagined himself in the universe, looking down on a huge aqua-blue planet. Time and space are also the structural components of the physical world. So why can't I dissect and reconstruct them? In Jeang Yi's mind, the more he thought about it, the more transparent and complex it became. The clarity came from understanding, and the complexity came from the more he learned, the larger the unknown area became. A string in his mind snapped, like a flash of inspiration. The Creator was like a weaver, weaving the entire world with strings of thought. If he could pluck the strings that made up the world, what would happen?